Chof Aleph Amud Aleph. About 20 lines from the top. Second word. Amar Rav Schoira, Amar Rav Huna. Line starts like Amar Rav Schoira, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. Schoira said in the name of Rav Huna, said in the name of Rav. Hador b'chotzer chaveri shaloi midaitoi. Someone who lives in his friend's yard without his knowledge. Ein tzarech lahalis lo yishchar. He doesn't have to pay for it. Why? Because he is actually benefiting the person that he sabotaged his house. How's he benefiting him? Mishum shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, Ushi'iyah yukas shar. She'iyah, Rashi says, the first explanation, Rashi will learn it inside soon, is that it's the name of a shade. If a house is empty, so a shade is a demon is gonna take it over. So by the person living there, he's actually making sure there's no shade there. Oh, yeah, the guy who lived there. This is the Gemara stuff. Omar Mar Baravashi. Mar Baravashi says, Lididi Chazile. I saw him. I saw the shade. Omenagich Kitura, he's like a goring ox. Rabbi Yosef Omar. Rabbi Yosef gives a different reason. Beisa Misva, a house that is settled, Yosef stays settled. In other words, if someone's living in a house, there's a little leak somewhere. There's a crack. So he's living there, he sees it. He can get it fixed right away. Mashenkin, if no one's living there, the little things become big things. So he's benefiting the person who's there. My benayu, what would be the difference between the two? It could be nayu, the kameshtamish be'bit sivi v'tivna. The difference would be if the owner is using the house for wood and straw to store. So if the problem is shading, then you're not helping me, because I don't have to worry about shading. I'm using the house. I'm coming in and out, I'm storing there, I'm taking things out. If the benefit is that you're noticing small things because you live there, then that benefit would still be there. And someone told me a halacha l'maisa from this story. There's once a guy in Borough Park. You know, parking is difficult to find. So one guy went for the winter, went to Florida, and another guy saw that his driveway to park in his driveway is empty. So he put up a sign, a driveway for rent, $500 a month. So some guy took him up on the offer, paid $500 and parked his car there, middle of the winter. The owner comes back, he sees a car's parked in his driveway. What's going on? In my driveway. Waits a day, the car's still there the next day, third day, then he sees the owner. He says, what are you doing in my driveway? He says, what do you mean? I rented it. Who'd you rent it from? This guy comes out, he got the story. The other guy rented his thing, so he took him to Din Torah.
Who did he get the rented? The guy parking or the guy that rented it?
No. The guy who rented it to the parker, who made money off his property, took it to Din Torah. So you know what Bezdin Paskin? That until now, he doesn't have to give him the rent. Because he benefited, the fact that there was a car parked in the driveway, got nothing. I thought someone's living there, so it's like this, shade. So he benefited. From now weiter, he obviously can't do it. But the back pay, he doesn't have to pay because he was nene. That no one stole his house. Stole things from his house. Anyways, a practical from this Gemara. Hahu gavra debana pandna akil kalta.
You want to save him to go inside so the guys don't rob it.
Yasmi, there was this person who built a palace on the dump that was owned by Yisraelim. A garbage dump. Not necessarily used. He built a palace there. Whatever, he wasn't paying them. So Rav Nachman took away the palace from him. He what do you call it? Changed who owns it. He made it belongs to them. Lemo kasavar Rav Nachman. Let's say that Rav Nachman holds hador b'chotz chavei shalom midaitoi. He holds that if you live in a yard that's not yours, tzorach ha'alos lo yischar. So therefore, he had to pay the assignment, right? Raya, he holds that even though you're not benefiting from it, so yeah, He's benefiting. This yard, what were they doing with it? Nothing. So they're lechoser, the fact that he's there, he's nene, and he still made them pay. So the Gemara says, no. Hahu, that story, mikara karmenoi abudarbe. Originally, there was this people, this nation called Karmenoim. Whatever, there was some people who lived in that place, and they were paying small rent to the Yisraelim. So it's a place that's made to rent. So it's not zen enem zel lechoser, it's made to rent. And they would give the orphans a little bit of money. So now, when this guy came and built his house there, Amar Lei, Rav Nachman said to the guy, Zil paisinu liyasmi. Go appease them, make them happy. Give them a little bit. He didn't pay attention to Rav Nachman. Hey, you're not paying attention to me. So he collected, he collected this house, took it away from him and gave it to the orphans. He didn't work it out for him, it's not yours. Let's do Rashi's on this. There's no Masukana in the Gemaras. We had different opinions on the previous one. Hador bechotzer chaveiroi. Someone who lives in his friend's courtyard, Deloy kaima la'agra, which is not up for rent. Shaloi midas, without his knowledge. Ein tzarich lalis, it's schar, he doesn't have to pay him for it. Shenemar she'iya yukashar. First explanation, Rashi, that I said before. Shei sheshmoi she'iya. There's a demon whose name is She'iya. Mekates shar bayish ibnei adam darbai. He goes to and causes harm to these doors, to these gates of houses that no one's living there. So this guy who's there is actually benefiting the owner that nothing happens from the shade. That's one explanation. A different explanation from Rashi is bias, who sho'ui v'yachid me'ein adam, a house that is desolate and empty of people. Yukashar, the sha'ar or sa'ir, mazikin mechatzin, I say the mazikin take care of it. From the word seirim, yirkadu boy, the mazikim, shade. That's one explanation. Either sha'aya is the name of the mazik, the shade that causes harm to the shar, or you get like seir, which is a sin instead of a shin, which is another word for shadim, in a house that is sha'aya. Sha'aya is like desolate. They saw misva yasev. The second reason was a house that's settled is settled. Bayis shehu miyushav, a house that is settled. B'diras b'nei adam, with people living there. Yosef is settled. Yeshuva kayim, its living will last. The v'shador b'seicher roim mashu tzarich, because the people who live there see what the house needs. Exactly, they say, and they fix it. What's the nafkamina? What difference does it make between these two answers? If the owner is using it for wood and straw, or straw, he kept his wood and straw there, and this person went and lived there, it was being used as a storage, and he moved in there. So Mishum Sha'aya Leka. Hey, you don't have to worry about Shadim. He's using it. But then it should be a settled house. Ika, there is. He's not living there. And therefore the person who moved in is helping and benefiting him. Akil kalsa ashpa. Garbage dump. The akil kalta me ashpois yorim evin. The pasuk, it says me ashpois, from the lower depth, low places. Akil kisai. He translates it akil kisai. Akil kisai is like an ashpa. Karmenoi shem umah. There was a nation, a group of people who lived there. Lishnachrina, another way is not karmenoi but kadmoinoi, with a dalet narration. Kadmoinim hoyeshim, but there were people who used to live there. Umalim schar l'yisayimim, they would pay the yisayimim. Avalei kaim l'agra, so the land is a place that is made to be rented. Right there in the Gemara, we brought in the previous Mishnah, what did it say? That if you do shame, birshus harabim, you are pater. Shame birshus harabim is pater. However, if he had hana, so he's mishalemes mashenenus. Right? So he said, how is that? If he was ochla mitoich harchava, if he ate it from in the middle of the road, so then he's potter for nezek, and he has to pay mashenenis, his benefit for it. If he eats it mitzidei harchava, from the side of the road, then he has to pay for nezek. Because why? Because that's not shame. It's keren, because it's strange, it's not typical. And therefore, you pay chatzi nezek. Keitzad mishalem is mashenenis. Omar Rav. So Rav explains the Mishnah. When is the Mishnah telling me that when it eats from the side of Rishus HaRabim, it's chayiv b'machzeres, when it turns its head, the body of the animal standing still in Rishus HaRabim, and it's twisting his head to the side, which is abnormal, and therefore it's chayiv. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, afilu machzeres nami p'tura. Even if it turns to the side, it is potter, because that's normal for it to do it, and it's shein b'Rishus HaRabim, which is potter. So the Gemara says, L'Shmuel, if that's the case, if according to Shmuel, standing in Rishus HaRabim and twisting its head over to the side is still potter, heichi mishkachas lo d'mechayiv, then what's the case of the Mishnah, which says, tzidei rechava, if it's the side of the road, you're chayiv? The answer is, kegoin, for example, the shavkis al rechava, it completely left the road, v'azla v'kama b'tzidei rechava, it went and it stood on the side, which is not typical. It's not the derech of oxen to do that. They usually just stand on the road and turn over, turn to the side. Here, because he went off to the side, and ate it, therefore it's like keren, and he would be chayiv according to Shmuel. So that's the machlokes Rav and Shmuel on our Mishnah. In other words, we say that their machlokes was about how to explain our Mishnah. Other people learned this discussion as a separate discussion that they had nothing to do with our Mishnah in their original machlokes. And it starts like this. Machazeres, an animal that turns its head off the main road and eats from something on the side. What would be the din? Rav Amar Chayeves, Rav says Chayev, Shmuel Amar Petura, Shmuel says Potter. Flek the Gemara on this machlokes, Uli Shmuel, same question. According to Shmuel, Mishalemes Mashe Zika, Heichi Mishkachas Lo, where can you find a case that it should pay for the damage on the side of Rishus HaRabim that our Mishnah mentioned? How does that happen according to Shmuel? If it turns its head off the Rishus HaRabim, it's standing in Rishus HaRabim, it turns its head to the side, it would be potter. So how are you ever going to have a case where it's chayiv? The mechayiv Heichi Mishkachas Lo, the mechayiv, where are you going to find that it's chayiv? And the Gemara answers, keep going, same answer as before. The Shavka, the Rechava, it left the road, V'azla v'kama b'tzidei rechava, and went and stood on the side. Okay, two ways of learning. Either it's on our Mishnah, or it's a separate discussion. Frek the Gemara Meisiv Nachman bar Yitzchak. Nachman bar Yitzchak has a question. What does it say weiter in our Mishnah? It says Mi Pesach Hachanus. If the animal eats from the doorway of the store, that's like Rishus HaRabim, Mishalemes Mashanenes, it's potter, and from nezek, from damage, and has to pay what the benefit was. Mitoichar Hachanus, inside the store, that's already Mishalemes Mashahisika. But now he has a question. Heichi Mishkachas Lo, how can you ever have a case of eating from the door of the store without it being turning its head as it stands in Rishus HaRabim? It turns its head to the doorway of the store and it eats. According to Rav, if it's standing in Rishus HaRabim and it turns its head to the side, it should be chayiv. Right? He said mechazeres is chayiv. Chayiv nezek. So our Mishnah says it's mishalemes mashanenes. That's a contradiction to Rav's statement. Pshita, how do you find such a situation? Pshita b'machzeres. It's obvious it's turning its head. The Ka'amar, and it says, what do you pay? Mashanenis. It pays its benefit. Mashanen is in, Mashizikaloy, it pays its benefit but doesn't pay the damage. So it's a question on Rav, who says Mechazeres is Chayiv. Moisiv law, he asks the question. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak asks it. Vuma Farik law, and he answers it. You know what it's talking about? The Kaima Bekeren Zavis. The store is actually in a Keren Zavis literally means a corner. As Rashi will explain, Rashi has a picture. You have a narrow alleyway, a narrow mavoi, that leads into a big mavoi, or the other way around. You have a big mavoi that leads into a smaller mavoi, and the animal is coming from the bigger one into the smaller one. And like 10 feet in, or 5 feet into the smaller one, there's a store right there, sticking out. So it's walking straight, and its head goes into the door. So it's not standing and turns its head to the side. It's walking straight in, which is normal, which is Rishus HaRabim, which is shame, and it would be butter, even according to Rav. I was talking about Mechazeres. And here, he wasn't Mechazeres. He walked straight into it, which is normal. And because it's normal, it's shame, Rishus HaRabim, which is butter for Nezek, and only Mashenet. So let's do the Rashis on this. Amar Rav, halfway down the page almost. Amar Rav, Rav says, Uvimechazeres roisha merchava. When it turns its head from the road, litzida sharachava, to the side of the road, the achla peiros, and it eats the fruits, katani masnisin mishalemes masheizika. That's what the Mishnah means. He pays for the damage, afagav tekula kaimim berchava, even though the whole body of the animal is in the street, it still pays for the whole thing. Torah, Shmuel says it's potter. He says, no, the body of the animal is in the street, and it's normal to turn its head to the side, so it's considered shame, normal, Birshus Rabim, and you're potter. So then we ask, according to Shmuel, how is it ever going to be Chayiv B'tzidei Rishus HaRabim, like our Mishnah says? And we answer, V'kama B'tzidei Rechavim, because it leaves the Rishus HaRabim, he goes and stands on the side, where it's not normal for oxen to go there. Therefore, it's not like Rishus HaRabim, and Shmuel will agree, you're chayiv. Others learn this machlekes ba'pei nafshe, lav amasnisim, not on the Mishnah. That's its own separate discussion. Mechazeres, as follows. If there's a case of mechazeres, it turned its head and ate from the side of the road, what would be the din? Then, we had the Gemara brought a question from Nachman bar Yitzchak. It says, eats from the door of the store, Shalemes ma shenenis, only the hana. Pshita, the Gemara said, b'machazeres. Rashi says, Pshita b'machazeres. Obviously, how's the animal eating from the door of the store? By turning its head off the Rishus HaRabim. There's no door of a store in the middle of Rishus HaRabim. The only way you can find it is if the animal's turning its head off the Rishus HaRabim. Uketani, how much do you pay? Mashinenis, not the damage. And what did Rav say? Damage if it's mechazeres. So he answered, no, this is a different case. The kaima chanus bekeren zavis. The store is on a corner. Going, for example, Mavoi Katan, Hakala b'Mavoi Gadol. A narrow alleyway leads into a wide alleyway. B'Kaima Chanus B'Roish Mavoi Katan. The store is at the end, the beginning, the end of the narrow Mavoi. Mashal Tzas Kapei Pnim, pulled a little inwards, not at the where they meet, but a little inside the narrow alleyway. And as the animal enters from the bigger alleyway to the narrow one, it bumps into the fruits as it's walking. It's not turning its head. In that case, it will be chay. Okay, 10 lines from the end of the page. Last 2 words. Ekadamri. There are others who say as follows. We said, till now, what did we say? There's a machlokes by machzeres. Machlokes in Rabbi Shmuel, if the animal standing in Rishus Rabbim and turns its head to the side. Yikidamri, other people say, mechazeres? Kulam alepligi dechayeves. No. There's no argument. The animal standing in Rishus Rabbim turns its head to the side, that's abnormal, and you're chayiv. No questions asked. So what's the machlokes? Ki pligi. What is the machlokes? The mekatze mokoy mirushusoy l'shus Rabbim. Listen to this. The owner designates part of his property as Rishus Rabbim. So let's say his property line is here. So his property line is here, and he moves in his house and builds a fence over here. So he has 10 feet, whatever area that's open, and he puts his fruits down over there. His house is not there, his yard's not there. He wants to keep his things there. So now the question is, it is, but there's no separation and designation. It's open space right after Rishus Rabbim. This is how the machlokes was taught. Omar Rav says like this: Lo yishanu ela mechazeres. When is the animal owner chayiv? When the animal's standing in Rishus Rabbim and turning its head to the side and eating, then he's chayiv. Avobat makzeh mokim Rishus Rabbim. In this scenario where he gave, so to say, part of his land to Rishus Rabbim, and then he puts his fruits there, and then the ox comes and eats it, Petura. The ox owner is exempt. Shmuel disagrees, and he says, "Afilu makzeh mokim Rishus Rabbim." Even if he designates a part of his Rishus Rabbim, whatever he gives it, and he puts his fruits out there, and the animal comes and eat it, chayeves, he's chayev. What's the logic? The owner is chayev for it. Yeah. What's the logic? What are they arguing about? He gives a piece of land extended of Rishus Rabbim. One person says chayev, one person says patel. What's the logic? Before we said derech, not derech. Here, what's the difference? So 4 lines from the end. Lema, let us say that Rav and Shmuel are arguing bibur v'rishusoi kamifligi. There is an argument between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. If someone digs a pit in his own property, and then he makes all the property around him hefker. So he dug the pit, it was in his rishus. Then he makes all the land around him hefker. So it's like his pit is in Rishus Rabbim, but he still owns the pit. So is he chayiv or not? That's a machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Now listen to how that applies here. Rav the Amar Potter, Rav who says, listen closely. Rav who says that the animal that ate from the fruits in this property is Potter, Kasavar, he holds that Bur B'Rishusoi is chayiv. If I dig a pit in my property and make the property hefker and something happens, I'm chayiv. So that would be here. I put out fruits, grains, whatever it is, I put out in my property here, which is like Rishus Rabbim, because I made it hefker, I allowed everyone to walk there by taking away the boundary. And I put it out there. Now if someone were to walk and trip over it, I'd be chayiv, because it's bur b'rishusah. Now, if I leave a bur out in Rishus Rabbim, I leave an object, I'm not allowed to, and I'll be responsible. But if someone else comes and takes it, they can, because I'm not allowed to put it there. Since I'm not allowed to put it there and I'm chayiv if something happens, if someone else comes and takes it, there's zachaboy. So here, since he holds that leaving it there would make me chayiv, if the animal comes and eats it, the owner of the animal is pater. Because it's a bar of Rishus Rabbim. I left it there, I made it after. That would be Rav's opinion. Shmuel Amar chayiv. And Shmuel will say that the ox owner is chayiv. Why is he chayiv? Because he holds bar of Rishus is pater. And I'm allowed to put it there. I'm allowed to put it there, you're not allowed to eat it. Your animal eats it, you pay for it. No, if I left the bur, I made the land around it hefker. So it's a hefker thing. Am I allowed to do that? Yes. I'm pater from. It's like I built it in mine. So if I'm pater, then I'm allowed to do it. And if you come and take what I left there, you're not allowed to do that. So you're chayiv. The animal. So the animal took it. The owner is chayiv. That's why Shmuel will say you're chayiv. So this would make Rav and Shmuel like only one of those two opinions. Right? You'd be limiting Rav to Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Shmuel and Shmuel to the other one. They don't want to do that, of course, right? They want to work out like both Tanoim. Let's do the Rashis before we turn the page. Right where the picture is. Everyone's going to hold this chayim. It should not have turned its head to the side of the road. When is there an argument? He pulled it into his own property. Uvana built his house early. Inside. He left his carcass, so to say, for public. And he put out fruits there. An animal, as it was walking, Rabbi went there. And ate them. That's a machlokes to Rav and Shmuel. Rav says Yechai, Shmuel says you're pater. Why? Lema, let us say Rav and Shmuel b'choifer bar b'shusay. Arguing about if you dig a pit in your own rishus, v'hivkir rishusay, you made it hefkir, but hivkir boyre, you didn't make the pit hefkir. Kamifliki, that's the argument to Rav and Shmuel. B'plukta Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva, the plika balakaman. It's the machlokes that Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel argue later on in the Sechta Baba Kama in Perek Shoshonag Sapara. Rav Savar Chayiv. Rav holds that you'd be chayiv on the burr. Sorry, I said Rav says chayiv. Rav says pater. Since Rav says you're chayiv for the damages, shemachi petura half behema. Therefore, the animal that came and ate it is pater. Because the owner who put out his fruits there, burr. It's like a pit. If the animal would have slipped on it, chayiv. He made it hefker. Therefore, he should have done it. And we learned in the next paragraph, anyone who does these wrong things in Rishus Rabim and causes damage, has to pay. And not only that, whoever comes to take them merits to keep it. So therefore, the ox who ate it, the owner is pater. That would be Rav's opinion. Shmuel says Bar B'Shus Rabim is pater. Hilchach behema shach lasan. The animal had no reason to eat it, no right to eat it. It ate it. Chayeves is obligated. B'Shus Asa. He had every right to put it there. B'Shus Rabim nami le'abba. It's not B'Shus Rabim. You can say it's shame B'Shus Rabim. This is not the pathway that it's walking. It's off to the side. Anyway, suffice it to say that Rav and Shmuel are not very happy that they should only be like one opinion. So they're just going to explain now how it has nothing, these two machlokes have nothing to do with each other. Rav's going to tell you, you know what, I'll tell you that Ba'alma Bar B'Shusay pater. You're assuming that I would say Bar B'Shusay is chayiv, and that's why the animal's pater. You know what? I can say Bar B'Shusay is pater. Why is the animal pater? Shiny hacha. Over here is different. The Amar, the owner of the ox, can tell the Balabas who put his fruits down on the field, close to Rishus Rabim, Lav Kol Kaminach, I'm not going to give you the credit to Mekarbis Lul and Peirisech Rishus Rabim. You're going to put your fruits right next to Rishus Rabim where we all travel with our oxen. And Mekarbis Lul Terei, then you're going to make my ox chayiv. It's your fault. Nothing to do with Bar B'Shus Rabim or not. You flush it, your fault. You put the stuff close to the Rishus Rabim, my animal ate it, therefore I'm exempt. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel's going to say the other way around. Ba'alma Bar B'Shus Chayim. You think I say Bar B'Shus is pater. You know what I'm saying? It's Chayim. I can also say Chayim. If I say Chayim, why is the sure Chayim here? I'll tell you why. When do I say pater? If there's a pit there. You can say the ox didn't see the pit there, and since he made his rishus hefker, So therefore, the owner of the pit is chayiv. The owner is chayiv because the animal should have seen it. Well, the animal didn't see the fruits. Certainly, he saw them and still got hurt. So then he's going to be patur. And therefore, Shmuel will say, even though normally Bar B'Shusha is chayiv, in this case, he'll say that the owner is patur. Since the owner is patur, the animal's not allowed to eat it. If he does, he's chayiv. Okay, just some Rashi's here, top of the page. But Rav says, I'll tell you that normally Bar B'Shusha is patur. You're only obligated from the Torah for a pit that's in public property. I built it in mine. That's how Rabbi Shmuel learns the reason there. And Shmuel will tell you, also has no connection. You thought I hold Bar in his Rishus is patur. No, but I'll tell you Bar Rishus is chayiv. Hoyol v'ifkiroi. He made it hefker, so it's like Rishus Rabbim. He's chayiv. Hacha here, my time of behema shachlos l'chayeves. You want to know why here's the animal that eats it? Chayiv. I'll tell you why. A pit, you can say the owner that made it hefker afterwards is chayiv. The shor l'nture, because the pit, the ox doesn't see it. The shor l'nture nafsh mibar doesn't realize, protect himself from the pit. Even the Rishus Dichnas, since it was like Rishus Rabbim and he's allowed to go there, the Hifkir Rishusay, he made it Hefkir, Chayiv Balabar. So then the owner of the pit would be Chayiv. Right? Because the ox is not going to see it. Avol Peiris, he sees it. He slips, tough luck. Hakachazi live, Afilu Uchluk, even if the animal slips, butter. Avol Gab the whole Takola Barhu, even though any stumbling block is like a bar, that's Rishus Rabbim, where he has no permission to put it there. And therefore, the ox would be patur, the owner would be patur, and if the ox eats it, he would be chayiv. Just a few more lines, let's go to the Mishnah. Lema, let us say, mechazeres tanoi. Let's go back, we had a machzeres, right? The animal turns its head off to Rishus Rabbim. Let us say that this is a machlekes tanoi. Where will I see this being a machlokes tanoi? In the Tanya, we learned in a Braisa, if the animal eats from on the public property, mishalem es mashenenis. It's patur for nezek. Why is it patur for nezek? Because it's shein Rishus Rabbim, but it has to pay for whatever it benefited. If it eats from the sides of Rishus Rabbim, mishalem es mashizika, it has to pay for the actual damage. Divrei Reb Meir Rabbi Yehuda. Sabraisa. This is the opinion of Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Reb Yosi and Rabbi Lazar Imrim. Reb Yosi and Rabbi Lazar say, Ein darko lechol elo lahalik. They say it's not normal for the animal to eat, only to go. And therefore, if it eats, it should be chayiv.
What does it mean?
It walks. The derech of the animal is to walk, not to eat. So if it eats, it's like Karen. It has to pay for it, and therefore he has to pay for it. So wait a second. What's Rabbi Yosi and Rabbi Lazar talking about when they say you have to pay? Emtzer Rishus Rabbim? Like in the middle of Rishus Rabbim? They can't say that. That's Shein Rishus Rabbim. Right? They're obviously not saying that. What are they talking about? The sign. Isn't that what Tanakama said? Tanakama said, Emtzer Rishus Rabbim, Shalem is Mashanenis. Nezek is only for the sign. And then Rabbi is coming along and saying, Chayiv. Chayiv where? Not Emtzer Rishus Rabbim. Besides, then he's saying the same thing. In fact, the Gemara, Rabbi Yosi and the Tanakama. Rabbi Yosi is saying the exact same thing as the Tanakama. I need to find a difference. You know what difference I'm going to say is? Mechazeres must be. The difference is when the animal was in Rishus Rabbim but turned its head. So Rabbi Meir would say chayiv, and Rabbi Yosi would say, Rabbi Meir would say it's normal and therefore you're patur. And Rabbi Yosi says no, it's not regular to do that. Therefore, if it doesn't, it's chayiv. Tanakama Sava Machazeres Nami Mishalem is Mashnenis. Rabbi Meir Tanakama will hold then even if it turns its head, it only pays what it benefited, not the damage. Yesi Sovar, Yesi says, Mishalem es Mashe Zika. So this would be the machlekes, Rav and Shmuel, right? The Chazeres is, what's the problem? It's a big problem. Why are Rav and Shmuel arguing about it if it's already a machlekes Tanoim? They're not coming. It's a question. How can you have this machlekes Rav and Shmuel if you already have this machlekes Tanoim? So the Gemara answers, Loi, no. Kula, Alma, Mechazeres, Ikiravi Kishmul. This has nothing to do with Mechazeres. Either they both hold like Rav, they both hold like Shmuel. It's not connected one to the other. What's the machlokes here then between Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi? Hacha bebier b'stei acher kamiflik. It says in the pasuk, when are you chayiv for shein? Uvier b'stei acher. He eats, destroys in another field. What does that mean? When are you chayiv? B'stei acher. Mar savar. So one person holds the way you learn that is uvier b'stei acher. When are you chayiv? Someone else's field. V'loy b'rishus harabim, and not b'rishus harabim. Umar savar, and another one learns it. Uvier b'stei acher v'loy b'rishus hamazik. You're chayiv if you eat in someone else's, but not in the rishus of the owner of the ox itself. So if someone brings his fruits into the ox's owner's land, and then the ox eats it, he'd be putter.
It's hard to do. Why can't you do it?
That's what his chiddush is. So the Gemara asks, wait a minute, that's what I need a pasuk for. Bereshus hamazik. Lema, let him say, Percha bereshusi, my boy. What is your fruit doing in my land? My ox ate it. I need a pasuk to tell me that I'm putter. I tell you what, you put your fruit in my land. Of course I'm not putter for it. So he says, that can't be the difference. Ella, the ilfa v'rabushia. I don't know if you remember earlier, we learned the case where in Rishus Harabim, the ox ate off another ox's back, or walking around with the hanging over his shoulder, and the ox ate from it. So that's where there would be a machlekes. Reb Meir would hold in the middle of Rishus Harabim. You even in these cases, you're putter from Nezek. Only Rabbi Yossi comes along and says, no, it's not normal to jump on top of someone else, and if he did it, it's Nezek, and therefore you're chayiv. Mashi Zika. Let's do the Rashis. Eight lines from the top. Rabbi Yossi, Hainu Tanakama. We bring a machlokes and Rabbi Yossi saying the same thing. Why is he saying the same thing? The Kasol Kadaitach, because we think when Rabbi Yossi says you're chayiv, he's not talking about Rishus Harabim, right? When Rabbi Yossi says you're chayiv Rishus Harabim, he can't be talking about in the middle of Rishus Harabim. Lavatech harchava koi Rabbi Yossi to make him chayiv dog sivu v'yer b'stei acher b'le Rishus Harabim. It's clearly eating someone else's field, not Rishus Harabim. Rishus Harabim is potter. He must be talking when he says chayiv atzidei rechava koi. It's not normal to eat there. Elal is just to go. He ate it. He's chayavis. That's the same thing Tanakama said. Even though it's just a butter on the side, you're chayiv. So he says, no. Rabbi Yossi is talking about. Oh, I'm sorry. And therefore he wants to learn out what's the chilik between them. Machzeres ikibinayu. Yishaminam Rameir Domar B'tzidei Rechav Mishalemes. When Rameir says you have to pay on the side. Mashizika, what a damage, could go into Ozla, come and see their Rechav. It went and stood on the side. But if it turns its head, like Rameir would say you're putter, because it's standing in Rishus Harabim. Ka'amar Rabbi Yossi, on that Rabbi Yossi comes and says, it's not normal to turn its head in the middle of the Rishus Harabim, but to walk there. This one turned its head and ate there. Therefore it's chayiv. That's what we want to say. So no. Has nothing to do with Matzeres. They both can hold a Rab, they both can hold Shmuel. So then what's Rabbi Yossi different than Tanakama, right? Rabbi Yossi can't be saying Chayiv in the middle of Rishus Harabim. So he says, they're talking about something else. What are they talking about? Rishus HaMazik. Chacha bir b'steyacher pligi atoich rechov anami mechad Rabbi Yossi. Sorry. Rabbi Yossi, here the machlokes is whether you're Chayiv in Rishus Harabim. Rabbi Yossi will hold, right? We said it cannot be that Rabbi Yossi would come along and say that you're Chayiv in the middle of Rishus Harabim. He says, yes, he does. He does hold your Chayiv in Rishus Harabim. Why does he hold your Chayiv in Rishus Harabim? Because he learns out, when it says Uvir b'stei acher, it doesn't mean V'loi b'Rishus Harabim. It means V'loi b'stei Rishus HaMazik. She'im hichnes peirosav l'chatzav al-abayis shalei b'Rishus. If he brings his fruits into the other person's Rishus, achlosav hem t'shval abayis, and his animal eats them, he's potter. So the Gemara says, I need a pasuk for that. Label my boys Rishus, Kroy Lamdi, what do I need a pasuk for? Okay, so he changes it. He says, yes, Rabbi Yossi is saying Chayiv in Rishus Harabim in specific cases. The cases of Ilfa and Ushia that we had earlier. If it stretches out its hand and eats from on top of the other, stretches out its neck and eats from on top of the food on top of the fellow animal, then it's Chayiv. And Ushia is it jumped up and ate from the box that he's holding. In both these cases, Rabbi Yossi says Chayiv. Meir Savar Mitech Rachav Leila Potter. Meir says if it's in the middle of Rishus Harabim, you're always Potter. Now, if you you only have to pay for the benefit. Afilu Ilfa, Rabbi Yossi, even in these cases. Also, Rabbi Yossi Lemeimar, Rabbi Yossi comes to say, Ein Dark Elishus Savar Achaverta, Ein Dark Elishus. It's not normal to turn its head. It's not normal to jump Miderech from the road, V'lechol Ella Lahalech, just to walk. V'islei the Ilfa, the Ushia. Therefore, he agrees with Ilfa and Ushia that you would be Chayiv. That's the machlokes, and it has nothing to do with Machzeres. Yasher Koya.